This fight in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure right now is absolutely incredible, and it's not just because it's entertaining at a basic level of just, oh, something cool's happening. It's that throughout this episode where I was like, oh, that's a really interesting mechanic, they continuously built on that, and by the end of this episode, I'm just like, I just saw so many crazy things that this could be 5 episodes worth of content, but they decided to incorporate it into one fight, and it's absolutely incredible, and I can understand why this is a lot of people's favorite JoJo's fight, or at least one of their favorite JoJo fights. This episode was incredible. I can't wait till next week to see how it's going to conclude. It's gonna be amazing. I just love Grateful Dead. I think, yeah, I can understand why this is one of the top stands in the series. This stand is ridiculous, it's creepy, and when you think you've seen it all, it incorporates something different, like, oh, actually, he was the old man all along. This fight was awesome. Just starting off with a fight that I thought would be pretty fun, but nothing too extraordinary. I mean, we got a fishing pole, and then we got Mista. Mista's not gonna have too much trouble. That boy was getting reeled in, and it was disgusting seeing the fish hook go throughout his body and just seeing just how painful that would be. Like, I was a little like, okay, that's pretty disturbing watching a fish hook go through his body. You can just tell that has to hurt, and then every time he tries to blow it away or basically detach it, there's nothing that he can do. It just keeps reeling him in. And the fact that they actually were able to overcome this obstacle was by just outsmarting a dumb character was actually pretty interesting, because I mentioned it, I think it was last week, where I said, hey, he noticed the turtle but didn't say anything. And this episode really plays into the whole idea that this guy, he's not the smartest in their squad, and he easily is being manipulated by others, and I could understand why maybe he didn't realize to say, oh, there was actually a turtle underneath until near the end of the episode, and why he was so easy to drop his stand to get the ice, not realizing that he could probably go get other ice very easily. I like the idea of outsmarting a character in such a basic way to overcome and just turn an impossible situation into one that becomes an impossible situation for him. That guy had to be shitting his pants, and just seeing the reactions. Anytime a character in JoJo, be it an antagonist or our main characters, when they get pushed to the edge, I love the reactions and just seeing the shocked faces. No matter how many times you see a shocked face, they always find a way to make it different than the last. It's absolutely incredible just seeing how Mista turned that impossible situation into a win. It was very creative, but seeing how dirty they did my boy at the end, shooting him in the head with his own gun, was not expecting that, and I thought it was absolutely brutal. Too brutal for that boy. He deserved a lot better than that. I'm very excited to see where his character's gonna go, because it doesn't seem like he's dead just yet, so it'll be interesting to see where he's gonna go in next week, if not the following weeks there. But just seeing Grateful Dead and how this aging factor, it should be a one-trick pony, but there's so many ways to incorporate it by making the actual stand user age himself to blend in with the common folk, making you think he's just an old man who's obviously going through some mentality issues, because that's why he's talking about wanting to eat meat, things like that. There's so many ways to outplay the other, but even when you have such an overpowered stand like that, you can still outplay it by just being creative. And I love the idea of Bruno kind of using his zippers to kind of like hide in the background and do some of the craziest shit. Like when he was just attacking this guy nonstop, it reminded me of some of those fights in part 3 where you're just watching speed versus speed, and it was just a visual treat. There was nothing that creative about it, but it was a visual treat. And with how much creativity we've seen in this episode, it was fun just seeing power clash with power. But to see him sacrifice himself by unzipping the train, like, I like how this is an ensemble cast. It's not just that Giorno is like the guy who's going to make this show. I love Giorno. He's probably my favorite character in this cast. But the fact that any given episode, it plays with the entire cast. It doesn't actually feel like we have a side cast or a supporting cast. It feels like we have a main cast where everyone does end up getting their chance to shine. We get the character conversations, we get them fighting and actually doing something. The fact that all the stands and all the characters in this part are actually saying something, they're actually getting personality and development, their stands are actually doing something, it feels like an actual ensemble cast for the first time, rather than just, here's our main character and here is their supporting cast, who yes can be fun and do their things, but I never feel like coming out of a JoJo episode in this part, I'm like, okay, here's the main character and here was the supporting character in this episode. I just feel like this entire cast is main characters, and that's really important for a story like JoJo. We don't get to see that a lot, and I love how this cast is being explored and how all of them are willing to sacrifice themselves for the plan and the greater good, and that's why you kind of want to root for them all. And even when you see such badass antagonists with badass stands, you still want to see them fail, just because our main cast is so damn good that even if they have great personalities in the antagonist, you want to see them fall rather than our main cast. And sometimes with the JoJo cast, I'm like, well, this side character, he's kind of fun, but if he dies, I don't really care. Here, I want them all to live. They're so great. And the reactions and the creativity between these fights, like, there's so many things at play here. And the fact that they continuously to build on this fight to add so many mechanics that easily could be 2 or 3 fights, but they decide to incorporate into one is amazing. The stands in this part are absolutely incredible. I love the visual directing. The reactions are always on point, and the voice acting, especially from Bruno and Mista in this episode, not to mention our scaredy cat on the antagonist side. The voice acting really sold their performances, and I love how many times throughout this episode I'm like, well, this guy's screwed. Oh no, he actually got out of it. To then, holy shit, is Bruno actually gonna get his head cut off? No, he's just gonna throw himself off the train with the baddie. Absolutely incredible. JoJo is killing it this season. Seriously, I love everything about this part. The setup is interesting. I love the idea of Trish. Trish definitely is seeming like someone who's not just that damsel in distress. She's very much caring about the others who are keeping her safe, making sure that the others are getting ice over herself because she doesn't want to see anyone dead. I'm very excited to see where her character is going to go, because she definitely doesn't seem like the type of girl who's just going to be sitting around forever doing nothing and letting the boys keep her safe. I think she's definitely going to be doing some important missions in the future. JoJo Part 5 is absolutely everything that I've wanted. I've mentioned it week after week, but just seeing how they can continuously take what I'm like, okay, this week was my favorite fight, I can't wait to see what they're gonna do, and then they introduce something like Grateful Dead, and I'm just like, okay, JoJo, where else are you gonna take me in this season? This is why I'm so glad a series like JoJo exists, because even when it's at its worst, it's still damn fun. But so far, I don't even think there has been a worse aspect to this part, because it's so damn fun while doing so many things. And I really think it's the ensemble cast that's really selling this part, even more than just the gang setting, because all these characters are just as interesting as my favorite character, who is Giorno. I'm always entertained. Of course, I'd love to see more Giorno in the spotlight, but when I got Mista or Bruno being this badass and creative and having this great of sacrifices and just kind of personalities, I'm absolutely having a fun time. And even when they save a character in maybe the most stupid and silly but awesome ways all at the same time, like having a piece of ice and having lucky number 5 up there, like, it's still cool to watch. And you kind of appreciate the author of JoJo coming up with such ridiculous situations that can end up either saving a character or just taking out a character. This episode was incredible, definitely my favorite episode of this part so far, easily my favorite fight in this part so far, and I'm sure next week is going to be no exception. Let me know whatever you thought of this week's episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Did you love it? Did you hate? Your favorite moment? Whatever you're feeling, let me know, and be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and also hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.